To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning. He always makes national and world headlines. Today, the local take on former President Donald Trump, living, of course, in our own backyard, so to speak, Mar-a-Lago. The latest controversy over classified documents Trump's found at Mar-a-Lago. Investigators say President Biden's found near his sports car and elsewhere, too. First, though, Mr. Trump's reaction to news that the U.S. Supreme Court seems opposed to tossing him off the 2024 ballot, as Colorado's high court ruled, all for his alleged role in the January 6th attacks and efforts to overturn the 2020 election. I asked the former president about that outside Mar-a-Lago. The U.S. Supreme Court is said to be broadly skeptical in early reporting about the effort to try and kick you off the ballot. Having said that, though, speak to the argument, legal and otherwise, that your detractors have made leading up to today. And it's an argument that was given voice by Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leader, not long after January 6th, who said there's no question that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day.
He doesn't say that anymore. So let me just tell you that I heard and I watched, and the one thing I'll say is they kept saying about what I said right after the insurrection. Because I think it was an insurrection caused by Nancy Pelosi. This was an insurrection, if it was an insurrection, which there were no guns, there were no anything except...
In response to my question, Mr. Trump also referenced his remarks to marchers who gathered near the White House that January 6th.
I said, peacefully and patriotically. The speech was called Peacefully and Patriotically. It's peacefully and patriotically. He said I said bad statement. It was the exact opposite. So I think you should take a look at the statements that I made before and after, and you'll see a whole different dialogue.
Mr. Trump also referenced his Rose Garden remarks that January 6th day, where at one point he told supporters to, quote, go home in peace. But his critics say those remarks came after hours of inaction as violence engulfed the Capitol and Capitol Hill police were attacked, some brutally so. But again, as a matter of law, the U.S. Supreme Court does not seem inclined to let a Colorado state case remove Mr. Trump from election ballots in this pivotal 2024 year. Joined now by Brian Crowley, our longtime News Channel 5 political analyst. So many things going on that center back to Mr. Trump. Let's focus here, though, right now. Your take.
Well, the Colorado case was very interesting. I listened to the Supreme Court arguments, and the justices seemed almost unanimously to have grave concerns about the merits of the Colorado case. And if those grave concerns turn out to be what their decision is, then the Colorado case is going to go nowhere. And that will be a victory for Donald Trump. It
seemed they were worried, liberals and conservatives for the most part. You're opening a Pandora's box here that allows any state to say, we don't want you on the ballot, and then you have pandemonium in the...
Yeah, I mean, it would not be on the realm of possibility that all of a sudden Florida, led by Governor Ron DeSantis, suddenly decides that Joe Biden shouldn't be on the ballot for some reason, and then they try to remove him from the ballot. Yeah, I think there was a can of worms being opened there that was probably not worth opening. They sometimes say, don't bring a case if you're that might set a precedent if you lose. And I think this is an example of that if they lose the Colorado case, there you go.
Yeah, that can of worms would be a giant one indeed. Briefly, it seems court observers think the case about whether he has absolute immunity from prosecution, which so far a federal appeals court says he does not, that they'll have more traction there, making the case that no president can have absolute immunity from anything he does while in office. It'll be interesting to watch that.
Well, I think it's a classic example of Donald Trump going too far in what he says, and then his lawyers probably behind the scene are just going nuts. You know, he makes it sound like he could murder somebody while he's in the White House, and he'd have absolute immunity. Well, there has to be limits even to absolute immunity. Those are the kinds of things you don't want to say while the court is making a decision about a case like that.
And that's yet to be litigated.
Because you're suggesting how far you would go with immunity. And it'd be interesting to see where the courts go with that. My guess is it's going to be a very complicated decision when the Supreme Court makes it, if they make a decision and not just accept the appellate court decision.
Exactly. Don't punt it. Excellent point. As always, all things Mr. Trump have people pro and con either side, heated debate. We're going to talk more about the whole classified documents controversy that's again arisen, but some big Florida political news. I want to talk about that for just a moment. An effort by the Florida Supreme Court to dig into a fight over the effort by abortion right backers to put the issue of abortion access before you this fall in a constitutional ballot question. The state's high court hearing arguments on that pro and con over the last week. Forrest Saunders from Tallahassee.
Women deserve better!
You could hear them chanting from blocks away.
Yes on 4! Yes on 4!
Dueling protests over Amendment 4, a proposed change to Florida's Constitution, once again allowing the procedure up to viability, about 24 weeks.
I think what's at stake is bodily autonomy for women.
Those outside sparring over whether more access is right for Floridians.
I've held too many women in my arm crying because of what they've done. They can't bring that child back. They can't bring that child's life back.
That's as the real battle happened inside Florida's highest court, filled to capacity.
Good morning and welcome to the Florida Supreme Court.
Justices hearing arguments to determine if these 49 words, the proposed ballot summary, are clear enough for voters to understand.
It is misleading in multiple respects.
The Florida Attorney General's office and others say it's all too vague, taking particular issue with words like viability, and that it would be determined by a patient's, quote, healthcare provider.
You've created a Rorschach test of sorts where voters look at this language and they attach widely different meanings to it.
Those backing the initiative shot back, saying they followed precedent and noted the court's job here was reviewing clarity, not necessarily content.
I mean, the summary makes it pretty obvious that it's sweeping.
Yes, and if voters don't agree with that, they will have the opportunity to vote against it.
Justices now have until April 1st to make a decision. While no one knows how they'll rule,
People of Florida aren't stupid. I mean, they can figure this out.
Comments like these suggest to some the panel is leaning toward approval.
It seems like to me all these things have to be argued about in the political process. And it's because otherwise it is a restriction on the substance of what can be proposed.
But 5 of the 7 justices were appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis, a pro-life advocate. And there's concern among abortion advocates a right-leaning court will block the amendment no matter what. Florida now waits to find out what will be on its November ballot. At the Capitol, Forrest Saunders, WPTV News Channel 5.
Back with Brian Crowley, conservative court indeed, but that doesn't necessarily mean, as you heard in some of the arguments there, that they fall in line with that. In fact, sometimes we find conservative courts say, we're going to follow the exact letter of the law. You heard a bit of that, and it's also fool's gold to ever predict what a court will do anyway. But your take.
Yeah, and I think this is also an opportunity for the court to simply say that the language is acceptable, and as was suggested by one of the justices, the voters can figure this out. Mm-hmm. There's nearly 1 million signatures that got this before the court. The one thing about this issue, though, is it will never go away. If this amendment passes, it will still have one side or the other fighting over it. Abortion has been around as an issue for over 50 years, and it's going to continue to be a big issue.
If it makes the Florida ballot, it would require 60% approval. Any constitutional amendment requires a 60% vote for passage, a high bar. If it makes the ballot, though, how, if at all, Brian, does it change the contour of dynamism among those supporting it versus those who don't in terms of turnout? Florida, of course, big state, it's largely been assumed, well, it's gone red. It's going to definitely be, presuming he's the nominee, Donald Trump's to win, and down ballot would favor Republicans. If it makes the ballot, does it change that calculus at all in your estimation?
No. What's going to happen, as often happens with amendments that seem crystal clear, is the legislature then starts enacting laws that alter the meaning of the amendment, and I would expect that one of the things they would first do is try to come up with a legal definition of viability, which the amendment by itself doesn't do. So, for example, the legislature could decide that viability starts at 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. So this is a never-ending thing, and the legislature will try to make changes.
But that would be post-vote on amendment. In terms of the run-up to November, what do you think it means in terms of turnout? Does it change any of the political calculus leading up to the vote? Who wins, who loses?
It could potentially have an impact on the races here, but I don't know that it necessarily will help in a national race. But I think in some local races and congressional races, it might play a part.
Before we go to break, and we'll pick up the issue on classified documents, Trump vis-a-vis President Biden on the other side of the break with you and another guest. What else, Tallahassee's, are you paying attention to, you old Tallahassee scribe that you are?
Well, speaking of amendments, there was one bill in the legislature that wants to change the threshold from 60% approval to 66% approval, make it still even harder to pass amendments in the future. And there's also a number of bills that are out there where they want to take local control away from local governments and cities. They want to remove, police civil boards that watch police activities. They want to take away some ability to raise property taxes. There's a lot going on would take away a lot of power that local governments now have.
You have opined on this broadcast many times before that it interests you that conservatives, who generally would favor local control, get government out of your way, have tended, and really we saw this back when Rick Scott was governor as well. I remember you commenting on it as far back as that. Are you still of that mind, that it's intriguing that they would want that kind of control pulled away? Yeah, it's absolutely intriguing, and one of the explanations is that the Republicans have also always been pro-business, and a lot of the things that they're looking at, like not allowing local governments to have as much control over development, well, that helps business. So there's that yin and yang that goes on among Republicans. The debate goes on. We've got the best who keeps an eye on all things Tallahassee and beyond, and we will move on to our next topic, classified documents. A former president charged, the sitting president will not be. More ahead.